Hey everyone, it's Samy Bee here, and today I'm going to be doing a video on explaining the differences and the benefits and maybe pros and cons of an RRSP and a TFSA account. So let's dive in. So if you're anything like me and you have no idea what the F any of these things are, this video is for you. And also, if you need kind of a simpler, slower explanation, this video is perfect for you. I had a meeting with my personal banker who explained the differences between the two very, very well. So what started this, I'll give you a little bit of backstory. I run my own business. I've been running my own business for 4.5 years now, very successfully. However, I was doing some thinking since it was just recently tax season, and I thought, I don't know if I'm putting any money into savings or retirement. And it's kind of hard, I feel, for a lot of younger people to think that way because it's so far ahead in the future. Also for me, perhaps maybe you have the same reason. Am I even gonna live till I'm 60 or 80? Am I even gonna live to touch my savings and retirement account? You know? So I both want to live in the present and say YOLO and use my money and spend it all now. And I also want to make sure that I'm taken care of in the future. Saving up for retirement is not my #1 priority. I have a loan to pay off, a very big loan to pay off still. So saving for the future doesn't really make sense when I'm paying such a high interest rate on this current loan that I have. So I met with my accountant who said I should get an RRSP. And I don't just jump into something that I don't know about. I want to make sure I'm fully invested and aware of what I'm doing with my time and with my money. So I looked into what is an RRSP. And he explained it very well. However, it just didn't feel like the right fit for me, which is why I decided to have a personal meeting with my banker, and I will try to sum it up the best way I can for you guys. So an RRSP is a Registered Retirement Savings Plan. What this is a registered account, and like I'm just dumbing it down. I'm not going to get into crazy detail. This is kind of more for a video for the people who want it summed up. So basically it's a retirement savings plan through the government of Canada. I don't know if America, like the United States, has this, probably, but this is for sure Canada, and it's through the government. And okay, so say for example you invest $30,000 a year into an RRSP. You can get a tax reduction on that. Okay, wait, sorry. So if you run a business like myself, or you don't even have to run a business, you know, at the end of the year when you like end up owing taxes, I guess, at the beginning of the year. So for example, if I made $30,000 in 1 year and I invest $2,000 into an RRSP, I am only taxed on $30,000 minus $2,000 equals $28,000. So I am only taxed $28,000 because the government doesn't count whatever you put in an RRSP, you don't pay taxes on. That pretty much sums up what an RRSP is. It's a savings account, and you get a tax reduction because it's kind of an incentive from the government to do this. Sounds great, right? The problem with RRSPs, in my opinion, is that later down the road, when you want to take that money out, you get taxed on it. So that tax reduction in the beginning didn't really save you anything. You get taxed down the road. So maybe it's good to like save that money now, and then maybe you'll become really rich in the future, so it doesn't really matter if you get taxed in the future. However, that's not the case with most people. My biggest issue with an RRSP is getting taxed in the future. I get taxed enough as it is. Regardless if I get a tax reduction in the beginning of it, it doesn't matter because I get taxed in the end. So that's my opinion on RRSPs. They're not for everybody. However, there is a second option, a TFSA, which stands for tax-free savings account. My banker said that it should kind of be more or less called a tax-free investing account because there's three. So you have TFSA and there's three little parts here. It branches off into three sections, and these two sections here are basically investing your money, and then this first option here is a savings account. So we're going to discuss that first. You have your savings account in a TFSA, and the example that he gave me for my example, so right now I could put my money in a TFSA savings account at an interest rate of 0.75%. That means that I will gain 0.75% each month as long as it's like the interest rate is that. So I will slowly gain and build money as my money sits in that savings account. Now, 0.75% is fairly low unless you had a very substantial amount of money. It's still pretty low. I would say the only con with that savings account, so you don't get taxed on it. You put your money in, $1,000 in, $1,000 out. That's it. No fee, no nothing. The problem with that, we'll say, is that it takes about a day or two to receive that money. You actually have to go through the bank to do it. So for example, I would email or call up my personal banker and say, hey, I'd like to take out all of my money in my savings account, or I'd like to take out $500 out of my savings account. I'm buying a dirt bike. And he'd say, okay, give me a day to process this. We'll get the papers. I don't know if I have to sign anything, but this is just kind of the process. And then say tomorrow, but tomorrow's Saturday, so you see the problem? The Monday, I'd maybe have to wait till Monday. And then Monday, because I'm filming this on a Friday. And then maybe Monday is when I finally get the money. Now, if you're not in a super emergency rush to get the money, that's not really an issue. Like I said, you don't get charged for it. You just gotta be patient. Wait a day or two to get that. It's not like a regular savings checking account that I think most of us have, where you can just do it all on your phone. You can just log into your bank account and say, okay, my savings account, I just want to withdraw $50 today. You just go to an ATM or whatever, get the money, boom, done. TFSA is a little bit different. You do have to go through the bank to get your money. And like I said, you wait about a day or two and you get it. So that's the first option. The second option in a TFSA is a GIC. A GIC is a guaranteed investment certificate. So basically, like I said, to dumb it down, is the bank has a bunch of different little lists of options that you can invest your money in. I'm pretty sure you can go on the banking website and find this list of things. Okay, so a GIC, they have multiple different options that you can invest your money in. So for example, there might be a GIC account that I can invest, say, $1,000 in. And this will have a fixed rate of whatever. So for example, there was one that was 4.65%. So I put in $1,000, and then there's a fixed amount of months. I believe the minimum is 12 months. You can go a year, you can go 2, you can go 10 years. It all depends on which account you want to invest in. Let's say I chose a account, say there's a list of things and I choose this one. So it's 12 months at 4.65%. I'm giving the bank my $1,000 and saying, okay, I'm putting in $1,000 and it's going to marinate like a steak in that 4.65% for 12 months, and I cannot touch it. That's the thing. I cannot touch it. So even if the bank went bankrupt, it's guaranteed that I will still get my money back and the interest. There's no risk at all involved with a GIC. So I put in 1,000 and 12 months later, I get an extra 4.65% of that $1,000. So it's a little bit more, but the more you invest, the higher you get back. So it's 100% safe and there's no risk, and there's always that fixed interest rate for X amount of months, right? Or years. With that, is like you can touch it while it's marinating, but you don't get that interest. You're better off just putting a certain amount of money aside and just forgetting about it. Just forget about it. However, you can't forget about it entirely because, for example, once that 12 months is up, if you forget you have it, it just goes back and it just does it again at maybe there's a new interest rate after the 12 months, you know. Could be higher, could be lower. So if you forget about it, that money just gets locked back in and is staying there for another 12 months. But before I think he said like within a week before it expires, you meet with your banker or, you know, like email them or take a phone call and let them know what you want to do with the money. So this definitely takes a little bit more attention. So for example, if I had the $1,000 in a 12-month account and it's going to be expired next week, I'd call up my banker and say, hey, I'd like to take out that money, that $1,000 that I put in, plus the interest I made off of it. And he'd say, okay, yep. And I get the money back and great. I made an extra couple $100 with interest, which is great. But like I said, you really do have to pay attention because if you forget about it and you let it slip, you can't touch it for another 12 months. So just be leery of that. So I am starting with a TFSA account. And once I make a certain amount of money, I want to take that and put it into a GIC. And then once that creates a little bit of revenue, I'm going to go into this next third option, mutual funds. So a mutual fund account is basically the stock market, to put it very bluntly. This has risk and this takes time. And so what they do is you give them an X amount of money and they invest it for you. You don't really have to do anything with it. They take it and they invest it in their companies that they want to invest in. And I believe you can take out your money at any time with this. Again, you would have to wait a couple business days before you can get your money out. However, if you think of, you know, a stock graph, how they go up and down, up and down, up and down, the example I was shown is that this certain whatever investment company it was, over, I believe, we'll say a 12-year period, you know, the graph started here, it did a couple dives, it did a couple that, but it constantly went up, right? So you're not going to want to sell when it's here, even though it's still climbing. You're not going to it's going to climb and it's going to drop. So you don't want to sell on the drop. You're going to want to sell when it's high. If I put in, we'll say I got lucky and I had $20,000 just sitting there, and I put that into the mutual fund account and I just forget about it, ignore it, it will grow. And these interest rates in the mutual funds are so much higher. They can go up to like 20%, for example, higher. They can go lower. They can go negative. They can go 30%. So if I put in $20,000 and it increased by 30% in 5 years, you do the math. That's a lot of money I made by doing nothing. That's why mutual funds are a huge risk, but also a huge benefit. I guess what I was trying to say with the graph is that I could take $20,000 and put it into a mutual fund account. And I'm not going to look at that for, so I'm 28. I'm not going to look at that for another 30 years, let's say. So we'll say I'm 30, 60 years. Yeah, I'm 60 years old. And I'm like, oh yeah, I wonder how my mutual fund is doing. And it's gone up and down over the 30 years, but it's right here. It's right here now. And it's climbed this much in 30 years. So $20,000 is now, let's say, $130,000. That's free money. But, like I said, there's risk. And I have this little chart here, if this makes more sense to you guys. So we have a TFSA, and what I'm doing is starting with a savings account. And once I reach, we'll say, $1,500 in this savings account, I'm going to move it to a GIC. And I'm going to put it into here. And it's going to make an additional, we'll say, $500 in interest if I leave it in a certain account for 12 months. Okay? We're just theoretically saying an example. So now I have $2,000. So here's what my plan is. I just made $500 free dollars by doing nothing. I'm going to take that free money and start investing it into this little graph here, because over time it's most likely going to go up. So for me, I'm going to use this as my savings account, and then I'm going to build it faster with a GIC. I'll continue putting $50 a month into my savings account, and then once I have an X amount of money, like I said, 1,500 or 1,000 or 500, whatever I feel like investing, I'll invest it in the GIC, and any interest I make, or like I said, half, that way I'm not completely losing all of my interest, then I put the interest, free money, into a mutual fund, and then that just grows faster. It also drops faster, like I said, but if you're just patient and don't realistically look at it over time, you're going to be rewarded in the end. There is a maximum amount of money that you can contribute into a TFSA account, and it depends on the year you were born. Up until now, each year, it'll increase by a certain percent or stay the same. Here's an example that my banker wrote here. So if you were born in 2009, you can invest a total of $5,000 into that account. So say you're a wealthy parent and you have $5,000 to spare. You could put $5,000 into your child's TFSA account. And as they get older, you can do more and more and more every year. So for example, down the line, like this year here, you can add an additional $10,000 into that account. But then the year after, you can only add an additional $5,000 into that account. So it changes. So from when this child was born in 2009 all the way down to the current year of 2023, that person can invest the total of $88,000. So there will be a chart, so you can look it up. Like, this will be different for everyone because, like I said, it depends on the year you were born. So that is a total of how much that person can invest. That's maybe the only downside to a TFSA. I hope that this helped you. It's the whole reason why I'm doing this video for you. And please subscribe. I don't do a lot of this stuff, but I do run my own business, so I'm very organized, and if you ever have any questions about organizing things for taxes, like, I'm the one to go to. I mean, I am the type of YouTube channel who does videos on, like, everything, and I think that's why it's so hard for me to build up a nice subscriber count, but I'm staying true to myself, and I'm passionate about what I do, and I'm passionate about helping people. So in today's video, my whole goal and purpose of this video is to help you understand better the difference between an RRSP and a TFSA account. And if you're deciding on where should I invest my money, my personal opinion, I say go with the TFSA first, because that's just, well, you watch the video, you know my opinion. And I hope that this made sense, and I hope it helped. And leave a like, please subscribe, please subscribe, please subscribe. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.